Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Happy day to you all. We are together again to talk about our adventures in building Actuate Ventures. That was not intentional. But hi, everyone. Welcome.
Our adventures in ventures.
Yes.
Love that for us.
This is not a test, right?
Nope, we are live. We're doing
Okay,
this.
cool. Just making sure.
And just for context, everybody listening, we just spent the past 47 minutes getting our configuration set up. So we have minimal sound bleed between Carolina and I because we're sitting side by side. And then we went through lighting and camera stuff and audio stuff. So you're worried about what you got to do and it not being perfect getting a podcast. Well, even when you got your podcast running, you're going to be figuring it out along the way. So it's all right. Just take action. Do it.
Yay. So we want to know what was Utah Tech Week. So maybe we can get into that. A little bit of an insight.
So Andrew and I went out to the second inaugural Utah Tech Week, hosted by Convoy out in Salt Lake City from January 22nd through the Monday, January 22nd through Sunday, 28th. Although the event was only 5 days, we were there the entirety of the week. And there were some basically after party type things on Saturday and Sunday, one-on-one meetings that we scheduled with some very interesting individuals. But yes, big shout out to Trent Mono from Convoy and anyone else that I might be missing. Andrew can fill in some more names, but they put on a fabulous event. It was like 10,000 registered attendees, 120 events spread across the entirety of the basin. We stayed in Salt Lake proper, and events spread as far north for us as Bountiful, as far south as Provo, and as far east as Park City. For those, so probably like 30 minutes north, 30 minutes south, and 30 minutes east. So quite a bit of driving that we put onto the Jeep Wrangler that we rented would not drive again. So Andrew, you're up. Anyone I'm missing or anyone we should be including as a shout out?
So as I mentioned, when it comes to podcasts, just figure it out. So I did not have a list prepared to run down, but I'm going to bring down a list because while Chris said there was 120 events, which is very impressive, there was actually 180 events over the course of 5 days, which is just bonkers. And it was
sweet.
Yeah, and it was over the entirety of the Salt Lake proper and the surrounding cities. It was honestly phenomenal. A bunch of companies sponsored their own events, which brought people together. Some were focused around specific talks and topics. Some were solely focused on networking. But what Utah is doing right now in the entrepreneurial and startup ecosystem is massive. So they're cultivating a community that's really set out on helping each other succeed. So if there are resources that you need, or if there's something that you're trying to get done in your business, there is a team, a handful of people that will line up beside you and connect you with resources, because they understand that enabling one other person to win and everybody taking that action elevates the entire community. They have tremendous talent and innovation. We found out they actually have a great aerospace ecosystem out there as well with 47G. They're doing some great stuff and consolidating talent in the space. With the nearby Hill Air Force Base, they actually in that same area used to manufacture the rockets for the shuttle program, which is pretty cool. I didn't know that. So I'm trying to bring up a couple of posts so we can run through some shout outs for some of the companies out there. But yeah, honestly, the connections were phenomenal. The events were great. The content is good. A Sundance was going on at the same week out in Park City. So that happens every year as well. Excuse me. So that was something that was notable also. At Founders and Funders, obviously, huge shout out to them. Kickstart had a bunch of good things going on. Pelion Ventures, Forecaster. Trying to see who else I could give shout outs to. There we go. Zenny did some great, hosted some great networking events at Workbox. Workbox is doing some pretty cool stuff in the physical location. Factor,
Brex.
as well as, I'm sorry?
Brex.
Yeah. Brex had some sponsored event, brought some great minds together. Kiln was another facility, as well as Creately, the founders of Pillow Cube. That was pretty cool to hear about. Also, it was Trent Mono and Kat Kennedy who came together
And Kat Kennedy.
Yep, to cultivate this community. And honestly, I'd say for Philo Ventures, shout out to Scott, met you out there. That was good stuff. But yeah, a ton of people. There's literally 180 events. There was at least one or two respective companies that were hosting that, let alone with the attendees representing their own companies. So we're going to get more and more ingrained out there and add value to what they got going on, because we stand by the principle of everybody coming together to help each other, which is just phenomenal. And I felt like we were welcomed with open arms. Utah likes to keep it close to home. So it was very nice and warm in every encounter. They really do want to elevate the future together. It's pretty cool.
That all
And
sounds
just a
very
small
exciting.
correction. I'm sorry, Nicole.
No, it's okay. I just said
Small correction. To Andrew's point, I'm looking at the file numbers. 197 events. Right.
So it just kept going up.
Yeah. So for context, Utah Tech Week is a decentralized conference. That means it was up to individual companies, organizers to host their own events around the entire valley. This is not a big conference hall, CES style vendors and things. So it was very homely for the events that we went to. Honestly, we only went to 2 that had booths, like traditional vendor booths. And one of them was at the Capitol building, and the other one was that one pizza party with the awesome sauce. I don't even remember, honestly. But looking at Trent's post, hopefully next year it will be 250 to 300 events around the area. But he is going to contemplate how to make it more tight knit, so the travel is easier for in city folks. So the folks that mainly attended these events were in Salt Lake. We're the odd ones out, honestly. So it was actually kind of interesting to see that other people were not as enthused about traveling around, even though we had to fly in. So that's just even easier for us next year. But yes, honestly, I didn't mind going around the valley, because it would be nicer if we didn't have to go as much. But as out of towners, we don't know the culture. We don't know the area. Whenever I have gone to other conferences, like in Vegas or something, it's like there's another Vegas, or there are other cities. Even for like my hometown of Seattle, people that stay near the conference center, they're only within like a mile of this place, and it's like, oh, the Space Needle, Pike Place, other major locations, but they don't go out a half hour and see any of the sites or anything, right? Andrew and I really got, like, if we had time, we were in spitting distance of skiing.
Yep.
Right. There were skiing events we could have gone to.
FOMO.
So-
Definitely a little disappointing having missed out on ski season. But yeah, like Chris was saying, it was incredibly beautiful too. So almost being like, I wouldn't say obligated to travel, because we very easily could have just stayed in Salt Lake City proper. But you were
Easy.
literally from Ogden north all the way down to Orem in the south, in Provo. There, you're just surrounded by mountains, and then driving out east into Park City, you go straight through them. It was just all worthy. I was awestruck the entire time looking out the windows and just taking in the mountains. If you're not listening, or if you're not watching and just listening, Chris just exemplified me staring out the window while driving, which didn't. I looked out the front window when I was driving most of the time. It's when I was a passenger, so thank you, Chris, for playing chauffeur, so I could soak that in. At the end of the episode, I'll run through. Carolina had the great idea of running through like the full calendar to give a bunch of shout outs, and we'll also make sure to link all the companies that are out there doing the incredible things. I do want to give a shout out to Harmonious Capital and Alyssa out there. She had they have an amazing service when it comes to spinning up and managing funds and SPVs. They've been in the industry for a very long time, and they're building the platform to surround the problem space. They've just got great things going on. And also they had one of the most fun events. Everybody's was great, but she's invested in go-karting. So their event was at a go-karts. They might have been electric, but they were fast.
Ours were EV. Ours were EV. However, it's in the area, and Andrew, please refresh it. There's so many names.
Yeah.
I am bad with names, so this makes it worse. But there's an individual that's investing in local racetrack development in the area and even esports. So the investment into the community and seeing how they can elevate the people and their culture is phenomenal. I don't see that necessarily in the greater Seattle area. It seems like we might have too much wealth, and it's concentrated in just business development and not as much the stewardship of what we have on hand. And I just one quick note: everything that we're saying right now are shout outs. We did not have any sponsors. There was no pay. Like, this is all out of our own pocket. Yeah. This is just how fantastic the folks down there are.
Yeah, thank you for disclaiming that. It's all from the heart and the soul, and they've got real value to bring to the table. They don't know we're doing this podcast. The individuals or the entity that Chris was just referring to is Engelhart Racing, ENGELHART. They're building a racetrack out there in Utah, like a full-fledged racetrack. That is a business that I believe Alyssa is co-founder of, and the individual that we met was Bryce. That's out there doing that. So he's been designing racetracks legitimately for quite a while. But yeah, they're doing awesome stuff across the board. But I just want to make sure that we go through and kind of give some of these individuals and these entities recognition, because what they're doing is building an ecosystem that's gonna. Honestly, I think it might even start to shadow what Silicon Valley's got going on, and hopefully their roots being based in wanting to create a mutually beneficial ecosystem will help it elevate and scale much deeper. By the way, Chris, ASMR on the typing is great.
Oh, you know what? This isn't even mechanical. This is just my stupid old memory, and I haven't cleaned it in like 6 months.
Yeah, so if I was typing, it'd be like, "Hello world."
My actual mechanical keyboard is actually quieter. Honestly, I'm typing on it right now.
Wow, that's great.
I don't think you guys keep talking about like that you guys flew in, but I don't think we ever addressed on the podcast like where we're from.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Good call.
Yeah.
So, Carolina and I are from Orlando, Florida.
We are not from Orlando. We live in Orlando.
We live. Sorry for the echo, but we live in Orlando, Florida. So I'm from Miami, and I moved up here to Orlando. I've done a bunch of traveling.
And I am from Peru, and I've been living in the States for 9 years now.
I'm from Seattle. I've been here all my life, but I have traveled a ton around the country and the world.
I'm from New York.
We need someone on the other corner, like California, and we basically have all 4 corners covered.
We do. Yeah, sorry about the echo. We're still trying to figure out sound isolation between Carolina and I. But we do actually have somebody in California. We got Giancarlo out in Southern California. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So what are some things that we learned, Chris, and what are some things that we could take forward? Also, for context, so Utah Tech Week was phenomenal. As soon as we got back, I landed back in Orlando at like 5:30 a.m. and was taking meetings by 11, and then found out that there's a huge aerospace conference going on out here, SpaceCom, which I've been attending every day and will be heading back to for this afternoon. But that's been a whole nother ball game.
My takeaway is Andrew should get some more sleep.
Yeah, sleep is healthy.
Yep.
We're just so fueled by passion.
Well, I'm fueled by sleep. Thank you very much. He knows that.
Yeah. So let's see. What are some things that we learned?
How about
I know that Chris mentioned him talking about how he liked that it was like different events all around the city more than just being in a convention center. How did you feel about that, Andrew?
I loved getting to immerse myself in the state. I loved being exposed to the different locations and facilities that they have available in the ecosystem. I think it gave us a great insight into the dynamism of culture that's out there when it comes to like the startup culture and the business culture and what's available to collaborate with or dive into when it comes to like the infrastructure and the resources and the people.
so connecting? Nicole, any other questions?
Yeah, I'm interested in hearing how, I guess, on like what advice would you give to people on like going to these type of events and like how to best connect with people? How do you feel when going into these events?
So, what I would say is Andrew and I actually did pretty well. Mostly through our own experiences at other events like this. So it didn't feel particularly foreign. We got into the groove in our second day, mostly because the first day was traveling, and then we were still like, where are we going? Who are the people? There are always idiosyncrasies with these events where you're meeting the same people multiple times, and each conference or event might have a different atmosphere or subculture that you have to shift yourself towards, because when you're at reoccurring events versus single events that you might not ever see anyone again, you have to really play it by ear in terms like, are you pitching your story? What is your story that you want to deliver this one time? Versus there were people that I had more conversations with than I had business conversations with. And as a consequence, we were invited to certain things later down the line that were more personal. We went to some people's homes. We went to a concert. Someone just invited us, like, oh, you want to get something to eat. These were not the type of relationships we wanted to just put pressure on. It's like, can we get a deal? Can we get a deal? And in the back of my head, and this is just my ethos, I don't care. Like, I don't need, like, Like the deals will come when they come, if they ever come, but our human relationships are what matter more, right?
Yeah.
The people who are the most shark-like get ahead temporarily, and then and for our type of venture, they will fall flat, or I hope they do, right? Because that's not the spirit that I want to cultivate.
Yeah.
So, in talking with people at these events, each crowd is slightly different. When we went to the Capitol, that was a much more traditional event. Let's go there. Let's pitch. Let's get the conversation started because these people are from out of town or they're flying back. These people are head of Chamber of Commerce, senators, politicians, delegates, business leaders. That all they're caring about is how are they progressing their business. But if I was at the go-kart racing or the very last event when we were at the bounce house, the trampoline park, it was a family and friends event. There were their kids running around, right? Didn't want to just like, oh hey, let's talk for a half hour about the next partnership. It was like instead, hey, uh, you know, how's the food and how are your kids and do you need help cleaning up? And check out this latest weird AI thing I just happened to come across. Let's talk about Batman for 10 minutes, right? Those were way more fruitful.
Yeah, but there's something nice about forming real relationships with people. Just even outside of the perspective of the hopes for business. We just want to connect. We're going to be here for a long time. Relationships will take you a lot further in life than any kind of superficial connection will. So we're just interested in being part of an ecosystem where people help each other. And that starts with getting to understand who those people are, what they're going through, what they're building. And even when we were networking, it's like, well, what are your pain points? What are your gaps? Like, how can I help you become better?
What did you enjoy the most out of everything? Or what was your favorite event?
I enjoyed connecting with people personally. It's been very lonely working remote. So being amongst a bunch of people that are building toward their dreams and their goals, and it's just very cool to connect on that level. So making new friends is really what my favorite part of the whole thing was.
What about you, Chris?
Probably leaving the house for the first time in a while, but I am a remote first type of person, unlike Andrew. So there was no like energy that I absorbed. It's like, oh, sweet people. It's like, I'm backward. Yeah, it's the outdoors was more refreshing. But look, by the end of the week, my shoulders hurt. Like my back and my feet and my shoulders hurt. And that was wild because I had never had my shoulders hurt from doing nothing before.
It wasn't nothing, Chris. It was that Paul Oakenfold concert that we went to.
No, it was hurting. Remember, it was hurting before we got to the concert. It hurt more after the concert. But just so the people at Utah, I said, it's like, oh, did someone notice that my shoulders are hurting because I was doing this? And then they're like, hey, and then one of the folks at Convoy just sent me like details, like you should go and check out this masseuse.
That's cool.
And they like sent me to other locations in the area, and like they were booked. And I just downed Tylenol for a while, but it was the thought. And then, to demonstrate more of the awesomeness of the area, there was an individual that we met basically on the very last night, and she was like, hey, save yourself $1 on hotels. Next time you're in the area, stay in my basement. I was like, oh, sweet.
Yeah, that's
And
that's
this is
actually
how we
we got
disappear.
invites from a couple people to stay with
Yeah.
them if we ever came through again. That was really cool.
I gotta say, like that's like completely different, especially compared to other cities that we've been in. That like figure it out on your own.
Yeah, exactly. Another example of the hospitality of Utah is when we were driving, we actually got a chip in our window from a rock off the road, and we were at an EV event, and Chris brought it up to somebody that was there. I was like, "Hey, you don't know anybody that might be able to fix this?" And the owner of the facility was actually like, "Yeah, they're replacing a window on one of the Teslas. You could probably just swing by and ask them." And after they were done swapping out the window, they came over and filled it with resin. Didn't ask for anything. They're just like, "Yeah, if you know anybody in town that needs our services, pass the note along." So
That's great to hear. So, are you guys considering moving to Utah?
I was gonna ask that as my next question too.
Yeah. I think we're both considering having a base of operations there.
yeah,
Andrew a bit more on terms of moving. I have lots of family in the Seattle area, but I'm very open to spending more time down there than originally planned. Um, and then just investing in the area. There's a lot of folks that we met that were in real estate building new housing and talking about the future of the valley and where the new prosperous areas would be and the type of infrastructure that's needed. Um, and there's so much to anyone that doesn't know what goes into city planning. There's a lot. It is an incredibly exquisite field for anyone still looking for listening in and going, what opportunities do I have uh, that I might put my creative talents towards if I'm just starting out, uh, building the future of cities and knowing that you're going to lay the groundwork for tens of thousands of people uh, that will be in a location in the future is very rewarding. Um,
yep.
But yes, we are in talks with folks who are like building hundreds of new units, millions of square feet of real office space. And we're like, wow, we don't hear that in our respective locales with the same pressure and the same enthusiasm. It seems like everything is built out, or there's a lot of NIMBYs, not in my backyard, folks that are like, no, we don't want this or that anymore. We're settled. So when we're looking down at Utah, we're going, if we were to create an office, where would we do it? Right?
Yep.
Not today, but where would we do it that 10 years down the line, that our talent and our headcount that we bring on board would thrive, right?
What do you think is the main reason for them to like they seem to like be putting a lot of effort and energy to kind of foster this culture? Do you think like they're trying to compete with like I don't know Silicon Valley or they're trying to make it more human or what's the main meaning behind it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. There's a very large Mormon population out there, and I think it's just innate in the masses to be there for each other. So I don't think it's coming from a place of competition, honestly. It's just coming from a place of general goodwill and wanting to elevate each other and the community. Like even when they're talking about how to contribute to the film industry, and they were talking about impact filmmaking and diving deeper into these purposes and just growing out different parts of the community. But they want to bring the success and the growth and the capital back to Utah to reinvest in the community to then scale even further. So I think they're just as a whole, not just a Mormon community, but I'm saying like there are roots there. But as a whole, the people that are out there are just wanting to grow this community, and there's a mutual focus, like a real centered drive to elevate the community as a whole. I think that's the biggest driving factor, honestly, is they want to win, and they want everybody to win that's out there. So they're making sure that happens. And the only way to do that is as a community. So to be one, even considered to be welcomed into something like that as a quote unquote outsider, me being from Florida and Chris being from Washington is wonderful. But also that kind of energy when you get into a community where people just want to help each other, it's contagious, and you just want to give back. So I'm personally interested in not just setting up an infrastructure out there, but maybe moving out there, at least closer, for sure, so that we can give back to that kind of environment, because we'd like that to scale, beyond Utah, where like that's at such a capacity that we could then bleed it across, the country and then the world at scale. And I think really that's probably what they're moving toward.
That's cool to see, like you said, that everyone is in it, like to help each other, because normally it tends to, like, especially when I think a lot of ecosystems when they're trying to grow and thrive, it's like a very cutthroat environment. So it's good to see that this is a completely different approach, and like you said, like it's for the community helping each other, and that benefits all everyone involved in it, because you're thriving, your businesses are thriving, and the people, like, it's just a word of mouth,
Yeah,
I'm
cool.
sold.
And there's mountains for you to climb out there.
Rock climbing is like tip top tier.
There was a very fantastic indoor rock climbing wall, an auto belay rock climbing wall at the
Ooh.
Recursion office. And Nicole and I are climbers, so take it on our expertise and interest when we say it was not your mall indoor rock climbing wall. This was legitimate. Probably like the hardest one I saw was, I would probably say, is a 5'11" for like, this is an office. This is right. This is not a playground one. I was like, wow,
I vote for having a rock climbing wall in our office.
As long as no one injures themselves, I think we should be fine.
Well, it's auto belay, so like bouldering would be like, okay, no.
yeah.
But auto belay when you're attached to something would be cool. Like, in between a meeting, just gonna belay myself up this wall.
Decompress.
Cool.
I actually don't. I've only like top roping would be interesting as a team building thing, but might run afoul of insurance companies. Like, you're doing what with your employees?
Yeah.
We'll start with yoga first.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this chat and kind of the recap and sticking with us through the technical difficulties. And I think really that's a couple of the things that I would say, and I'll pass the mic around for closing. But one lesson that I just learned that I think we can convey here that's actionable is nothing's ever going to be perfect. So just take action on the thing that you want to do and figure it out as you work through it, and it'll be okay. As long as you keep persevering, you'll get better. So like technical difficulties on a podcast, it's going to happen, and you can't always plan for them. But now we know to make sure wireless headphones are charged, that sort of thing. But also when it comes to the week, I think one thing that we learned is just come from a place of authentic interest in wanting to help your fellow people. And that will take you so far in life, regardless of what you want to do. And at the very least, you'll end up surrounded by people that want to help you in return. And I would assume that would lead to a very fulfilling life. So we're just going to carry on and showing up and helping as much as we can in general.
That.
Carolina, do you want to talk about something maybe that you learned or that you want to take as an action item into the coming week?
Charging my headphones for sure. Perseverance. I would say that's my thing. Perseverance, and don't leave things for the last minute. Don't drag them along. Like, just take action. Whatever it is, like I realize sometimes it's more the fear of actually taking the action than doing it, and then when you actually do it, it's like, oh, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. So just go get it.
Chris, Nicole?
I don't think I have any particular things that I didn't already say. So it's just been wonderful, just catching up on the energy, and the lack of sleep over the last few days. I can't believe it's already Thursday, so basically like almost a full week since since the event ended.
Wow. Nicole?
Last week when you guys were away, I went through my own like epiphany, and I was talking about this yesterday on kind of like I can sometimes get like, lost in things and feeling like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. I need to do this for the business. And then I like lose myself in it. And then I start draining my energy. And it's nice to come back to this space and be like, okay, wait, let me work on myself, because now that I took that time and I did that, and I'm like more grounded in how I want to show up and what I want to offer, that now like this week I just feel a lot more energized because I like just came back to myself within this space. So it's constantly me having to go back and forth with myself and check in. That's what I learned.
Cool. Yeah, I think we all go through that, and if we don't, we should consider it because it's a healthy thing to do. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And again, thanks for tuning in. Hope you all have an amazing weekend and week ahead, and we will catch you on the flip side.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Later.
Actuate out. Cheers, y'all.